On the day of my beloved mother's funeral, my sister-in-law chuckled, claiming I had overslept and thus decided to skip the ceremony. She, the very same sister-in-law who had coerced my frail mother into shelling out nearly $200,000 for a new house. Suppressing the tremor in my voice born of sheer outrage, I retorted, "Fine, but you're going to regret this, sis." Her response, cold and dismissive, ended our call then and there. After the funeral, I confronted my brother, revealing something that even he, usually gentle and composed, found infuriating. "Lisa, I need your help," he implored with a simmering anger in his voice. "We're going to bring her down to hell." My name is Lisa, 28 years old and single. Despite the hustle of my fulfilling job, I managed to hold up well. Today, on this weekend reprieve from work, I returned to my childhood home where my mother resided. "Hi, Mom, have you been well?" I greeted her warmly, cherishing our time together. My mother, always gentle and elegant, welcomed me back with a smile. As we sipped tea and caught up, my mother hinted at something troublesome brewing. But before she could elaborate, the doorbell interrupted us. "It must be Stephanie," my mother remarked, hurrying to answer the door. Stephanie, my sister-in-law, barged in with her usual chatter. Though her unannounced visits grated on me, I appreciated her concern for our mother. Yet beneath her facade of care lay a layer of passive aggressiveness that unsettled me. After exchanging pleasantries, I bid my mother farewell, sensing an unease lingering in the air. As I left, I couldn't shake the feeling that my mother might be harboring hidden battles against my sister-in-law's subtle intrusions. Months later, as I reflected on those tense encounters, I couldn't shake the growing sense of unease creeping into my heart. I learned from my mother that my brother was in the process of constructing an extravagant new house. I pondered. My brother has a steady income, but he's not exactly wealthy, and my sister-in-law is a full-time homemaker. How are they managing to afford such a house? "Well, I actually assisted him a bit with some money from your father's inheritance," my mother confessed. "How much do you mean by a bit?" I inquired, taken aback. "About $20,000, I suppose," she replied casually. 20 grand, Mom? Are you serious?" I exclaimed in disbelief. Our late father had instilled in us the value of independence, and I couldn't fathom why my mother would part with such a substantial sum. Stephanie, your sister-in-law, came over nearly every week, pleading for help. Besides, Andrew and Stephanie promised to take care of me since we'll be living together. I couldn't refuse, my mother explained, her voice tinged with reassurance. "Well, if you're comfortable with it, Mom, but are you sure you're not overextending yourself?" I voiced my concerns. "Not at all. This will mean less worry and trouble for you, Lisa." "I'm actually looking forward to this new chapter," my mother replied, her smile unwavering. In due time, their new home was completed, and my brother, his wife, and my mother began their cohabitation. When I visited to offer a housewarming gift, I was astounded by the opulence of the house. A modern kitchen, luxurious bathrooms, exquisite woodwork, and a spacious backyard. It was evident that my brother couldn't have afforded it all on his own. Proudly, my sister-in-law gave me a tour of the house, and once it concluded, I discreetly approached my brother. "Congratulations on your new house, Andrew. Please take good care of Mom," I urged him sincerely. "Thanks, Lisa. Don't worry. Stephanie will ensure Mom is well taken care of while I'm at work. We'll make sure she's even happier from now on," my brother assured me. It became apparent that my brother was unaware of his wife's repeated visits to our mother, beseeching her for money for the new house. I regard him as a good and kind person, but his oblivious demeanor raises concerns for me at times. "All right, just make sure to take care of her. You two, leave Mom to us and focus on your work," I advised my brother. "Don't bring up work." "Oh, right, sorry," he responded. After concluding our conversation, I presented him with an envelope containing some cash and a standing clock. "This clock also helps monitor health, so please place it somewhere visible in the living room," I suggested. "Thanks, this clock is pretty high-tech, huh?" But it could be good for Mom, and it looks stylish. Let's put it here, my brother decided, positioning the clock and a shelf in the living room. I should head home now. Take care, I said as my sister-in-law was occupied on the phone in another room. I left the grand house with my mother and brother bidding me farewell. Half a year passed, during which my initial concerns about my mom seemed to dissipate. She appeared to be getting along well with my brother and his wife, allowing me to concentrate on my work. I anticipated that these days would continue until the news of my mom's passing reached me. Upon my brother's return from work, he discovered our mother had stopped breathing. It appeared she had passed away alone in her room. The doctors explained that her pre-existing heart condition, exacerbated by overwork, was the likely cause of death. Mom, why all of a sudden? I wish I had come home earlier. I'm sorry, my brother and I mourned beside our now lifeless mother. Tears streamed down our faces, but my sister-in-law Stephanie was notably absent. Brother, wasn't Stephanie supposed to be at home? And what do they mean by overwork? I questioned, feeling uneasy. My brother, confused himself, responded, Stephanie wasn't home, and as for overwork, I don't know either. Stephanie handled all the household chores, so it doesn't make any sense. Despite the growing frustration, I spoke up. Well, first, we need to arrange our mother's wake and funeral. You will probably be the chief mourner, Andrew. You're right, Lisa. Can you help me? My brother and I frantically prepared for the memorial service. The preparations for my mother's funeral were overwhelming. Finding a venue, deciding on the plan, contacting people, and so on. Somehow, we managed to finish the wake, and the next day was the funeral. While my brother and I attended to visitors, my sister-in-law sat idly, doing nothing. Despite my growing frustration, the bustling atmosphere prevented me from confronting her. Andrew, tomorrow is the funeral, and as the chief mourner, you're going to be really busy. Why don't you and Stephanie go home for a while? I'll stay here, I suggested. Yeah, I appreciate that, Lisa. Thank you. My brother and Stephanie left together after my suggestion. I set up my work laptop in the now empty room and delved into my tasks. Throughout the night, sleep eluded me as I focused on my work. The following morning, the day of the funeral, scheduled to start at 10 a.m., I met up with my brother at 6 a.m. to begin preparations. The preparations were overwhelming. Checking the eulogy my brother had penned as the chief mourner, meeting with the funeral director, and handling various other details. My brother mentioned that Stephanie would join us later for the funeral. Around 9:30 a.m., just half an hour before the scheduled start, I received a call from Stephanie. Hello, Lisa. I'm calling because Andrew wouldn't pick up his phone. Okay, and? I just woke up, overslept. I won't be able to make it to the funeral. Struggling to keep my voice steady and free from rage, I managed to respond, all right, but you might regret it, Stephanie. I don't think so. Anyway, I know you're busy, but hang in there, Stephanie replied before hanging up. My brother approached, questioning, hey, was that Stephanie just now? Yeah, she overslept and said she's not coming today, I informed him. What on earth is she saying? It's our mother's funeral, my brother explained. Just focus on the funeral, Andrew. I have something to show you afterward, I replied. Somehow, we managed to get through the funeral together. My brother and I paid our respects to our mother's remains, but Stephanie never showed up. What on earth was she thinking? After the funeral, my brother asked, by the way, Lisa, what is it that you wanted to show me? Sure, Andrew. Take a look at this, I said, pulling out my laptop. On the screen appeared the living room of my brother's house. The clock I had gifted him had a camera installed, meant for monitoring the well-being of elderly folks or pets. I gave it because I was concerned about Mom, but since she seemed well, I refrained from invading someone else's privacy. However, the day before, I decided to watch the footage from the past week. I opened a few videos, I continued, and my brother watched them with bated breath. The footage revealed our mother being harshly exploited by my sister-in-law. Stephanie assigned all household chores and tasks to my mom, from cooking to laundry to cleaning, leaving our frail mother working to exhaustion. While my mother was busy with housework, my sister-in-law would often leave, indifferent to her struggles. The footage captured moments of my mother clutching her chest in discomfort and hesitating to call someone, ultimately deciding against it. My mom couldn't tell us about the mistreatment from Stephanie, always wishing for our happiness. Both my brother and I were in tears, overwhelmed by the heartbreaking realization of our mother's suffering. "Lisa, can we see the footage from the day Mom passed away?" my brother asked. "I haven't seen it, but Mom passed away in her own room, so I don't think we have any recording of her," I replied, setting the recorded footage to the date our mother passed away. After finishing the morning chores, our mother was seen clutching her chest as she headed towards her room. The doctors mentioned she passed away around 2 p.m. The living room was empty for a while, but as we fast-forwarded the recording, my brother spoke up. "Hey dear, stop it and turn up the volume." Around noon, my sister-in-law came into view of the camera, and when we turned up the volume, her voice became audible. "Hey, mother-in-law, mother-in-law." My sister-in-law called out towards my mother's room. When there was no response, she seemed to think my mother was not there. She then sat down on the sofa and began making a phone call. "Hello, thanks for being with me just now. Seems like the old lady is out and about, leaving the house chores half done. Wonder what she's up to." It was evident she was calling someone she had been with since morning. The harsh content of the conversation revealed a disturbing reality. I couldn't help but grimace as my sister-in-law continued the conversation, her words slicing through the air like shards of ice. What if she's dead? That would be something. But then again, I could skip the funeral and maybe go on a trip with Daniel. I mean, opportunities like these don't come around very often. She mused aloud, her voice dripping with callousness. My brother and I stared in disbelief as the person on the other end of the line, her lover, remained unknown to us. Wouldn't it be nice if that really happened? Then I could make up some story about domestic abuse for my husband, get a big divorce settlement, and buy this house. Then Daniel and I can live here together. So, where do you want to go if we take that trip? I'm thinking. My brother abruptly interrupted her. "Enough," he commanded, his voice sharp with anger. I stopped the video, watching as my usually kind and gentle brother's expression darkened. "Lisa, I need your help. We're going to drag her down to hell," he declared, his determination palpable. I nodded in agreement with my brother's words and wasted no time making a phone call. The next day, my brother summoned me again. "Lisa, she's back. Can you come over?" he requested urgently. "Okay, I'm on my way," I replied, immediately heading to my brother's house. Upon arrival, my sister-in-law greeted me with feigned surprise, masking her annoyance. "Why, hello there, Lisa. What brings you here on such short notice? You really should have let me know you were coming," she chided, her tone dripping with false hospitality. "Andrew called me here." "Please come this way," I responded, leading the way inside the house, the scent of incense lingering in the air. We gathered at the dining table, tension thick between us. "What's this all about? You two look so serious," my sister-in-law remarked casually, her demeanor unchanged. "I do feel bad about missing the funeral," she continued in her usual tone. In her usual tone, I addressed my sister-in-law, Stephanie. "Ever since you moved in, you've been treating our mother like a servant, haven't you? Even though she was sick, you made her pay $20,000 for the new house." "Huh? What are you talking about? I did all the housework." "Are you trying to pick a fight?" she retorted defensively. "Everything has been recorded, just so you know. I'm actually not an accountant. I'm a private investigator," I revealed, the truth finally surfacing. Only my brother had known about my real profession. I tapped into the surveillance camera embedded in the living room clock and displayed the video on my phone. The footage of my mother, obediently doing housework under my sister-in-law's command, played before us. "What? This is a violation of my privacy. What were you thinking? Delete it now," my sister-in-law demanded, her voice rising in indignation. I installed it as the owner of this house. I have the right to do so. It's not a violation of privacy, my brother stated calmly. What's wrong with you two? And what do you mean by private investigator? My sister-in-law questioned, her demeanor shifting, as if she suddenly realized something. My brother quietly retrieved his phone, and the audio of my sister-in-law's incriminating phone call began to play. I might just skip the funeral and go on a trip with Daniel, and maybe make up a story about domestic abuse from my husband for a big divorce settlement. Her voice echoed through the room. As the recording played, my sister-in-law's face drained of color. This isn't what it seems. Please, hear me out, she pleaded, attempting to deflect. What's the difference? Tell me, my brother demanded, his tone firm. As my brother confronted her, my sister-in-law began to make awkward excuses. Well, he's a friend. We were just joking around. I didn't cheat. There's no evidence, right? But there is, I interjected, spreading out several incriminating photos on the table. Images of her with another man surfaced, coming out from a nearby resort, being intimate in their car, and even entering a hotel on their way back. Clear evidence of infidelity. What? What's this? How did you get these? My sister-in-law stammered, her facade crumbling. You told him over the phone, didn't you? About where you wanted to go on your trip and how you wanted to spend the night together with him. I had someone in our company take these photos, I explained calmly. How could you do such a thing during our mother's funeral? My brother added sternly. My sister-in-law's frustration boiled over. Enough. What's wrong with you all? She snapped. There's no way we can stay married after this, Stephanie. We're getting a divorce, my brother declared, his voice resolute. But I'm going to take plenty of alimony, and you're going to have to move out of this house. Excuse me? My brother and I exchanged a glance, bewildered by her audacity. I mean, when people get divorced, the wife receives alimony, right? Now, hurry up and give me my money, she insisted, her entitlement palpable. That's not true. Since you cheated, you're the guilty party, and you're the one who will have to pay compensation to my brother, I clarified. What? Obviously, you're a bigger fool than I thought. Pitiful. Just like Lisa said, I'm going to demand alimony from you and from your lover too, my sister-in-law retorted, her anger flaring. Besides, it's for me to tell you to leave. Don't ever come back, my brother asserted firmly. No, this must be a lie, she protested, her defiance wavering. I handed the returned suitcase to my sister-in-law, who stood there speechless, and then chased her down to the entrance. After closing the door, I gently patted my downcast brother's shoulder. 6 months later, my brother's divorce from my former sister-in-law was finalized. She took it to mediation, but it seemed that the mediators frowned upon seeing the evidence my brother had gathered. It also turned out that she had been squandering the money from their joint bank account, so I heard from my brother that he was able to divorce her with almost no division of assets. After that, just as he had declared, my brother claimed alimony from his ex-wife and her lover. The lover, who intended on moving in with Stephanie with a large sum of alimony from Andrew, was infuriated by the alimony claim and immediately dumped my ex-sister-in-law. Having nowhere to live and dumped by her lover, my former sister-in-law is now said to be living alone in an old apartment, working part-time. My brother was depressed for a while. He sold the house, saying he had had enough of marriage. He now lives alone. Seeing my brother looking so lonely, I'm thinking of introducing him to a kind woman I recently met through work. She is also a divorcee, so they might be able to relate to each other easily. With those thoughts in mind, I head out and work hard again today.